Hey guys, these are going to be my picks for the top 5 357 double action revolvers, greatest of all time edition. I learned a lot from the experience of posting my controversial top 10 Hipster 9mm video last fall, so here are a couple quick disclaimers to save everyone some time. First off, the premise of this video is the greatest of all time, so my criteria are build quality and materials, accuracy, fit and finish, historical significance, and just general performance excellence at the range as an unmodified factory revolver. Availability on Bud's guns and price are not factors here, and I'm also not looking at customized revolvers. Second, I got a lot of dumb comments on my Hipster 9mm list saying it was a waste of time because someone came into the video already knowing what they wanted to see, and they were just looking for validation from some random internet guy. So, in order to not waste anyone's time, the following guns are not in this greatest of all time list: Taurus, Dan Wesson, Ruger, Modern Smith & Wesson, Charter Arms, and Rossi. I'm not saying any of those are bad or that you're a bad person for liking them. It's just that according to the criteria I mentioned, they're not as good as the ones on my list. And yes, I have shot them, and I know you can shoot your Taurus better than I can shoot my number one, and I'm happy for you. Finally, these picks are all my opinion. A lot of clever posters pointed that out in my last video. And guess what? Virtually all top whatever lists are based on the author's opinion, and if you think the only thing that matters is popularity, here are the top selling revolvers on Gunbroker. So, apologies for all the disclaimers, and I hate to sound defensive, but it's just I spent a lot of time dealing with dumb comments on my last video. So let's get going with this list of the greatest 357 revolvers of all time. First up at number 5, we have the Colt Shooting Master. These were produced in the 1930s and were based on Colt's large and heavy new service frame. They were essentially the Python of their era, being the flagship and premier double-action revolver of Colt's pre-World War II lineup. Their best craftsmen put their talents and experience into building and refining these guns, and it shows. The fit and finish are excellent, and the trigger is incredibly smooth in double action. It's a bit heavy maybe, and with the classic Colt stack where it gets heavier as you pull the trigger back, but that's fine with me and I kind of like it like that. Single action is also good of course, and accuracy is fantastic and easily lives up to the somewhat pretentious name of Shooting Master. If you're wondering about the sketchy external condition of this one, it's because the 357 variant is extremely rare and goes for about $6,000 to $7,000 in good shape, so I saved a ton of money by finding this one with some cosmetic issues, but perfect internals. Shooting Masters in .38 Special are far more common and affordable, so regardless of the caliber, these are definitely a piece Colt enthusiasts and fine revolver aficionados should look into. At number 4, we have the Smith & Wesson Registered Magnum. This was literally the first 357 ever made, and it was the model used to introduce the cartridge to the world in 1935. Every gun was basically custom made at the factory to order, and customers could pick different barrel lengths, sights, finishes, and even the distance the gun was sighted in at. As such, the craftsmen producing them saw them as a point of pride and put their best skills to use in their construction, to show off what they were capable of. From little details like the tiny lubrication grooves in the hammer, to the fine anti-glare checkering along the top, to more major things like the beautifully polished finish and the trigger, every part of this gun feels premium and made for you. The trigger is impossibly smooth and light in double action. It almost feels like it isn't even connected to the hammer. Single action is also superb, and it's not a dangerously light hair trigger. It's just perfectly weighted with a perfect break. Accuracy with this 8-inch barrel is of course outstanding, and most experts on Smith & Wessons consider this to be the finest revolver the company ever made, tied maybe with the triple lock from the early 1900s. And once one of these is in your hands, it's easy to see why. It's just really a gem and something that Smith & Wesson can be proud of from their history. Now, these registered magnums eventually became the Model 27, which is also a fine revolver. It's just that these early models had a little bit more hand craftsmanship put into them, and they were just a little bit more finely put together overall. Number 3 needs little introduction, and most of you are already probably expecting to see it on this list, and with good reason. It's the legendary Colt Python. Even the noobiest of noobs knows what the Python is and wants one. These were introduced in 1955 as Colt's flagship revolver with extra hand fitting and attention at the factory. The famous royal blue finish is so deep and wet that it looks like you just pulled it out of a vat of dark oil. The vented rib and full-length barrel lug really define the gorgeous aesthetics, and it's probably the best-looking revolver of all time. Inside, the barrel is tapered, which is allegedly to provide better accuracy and velocity. The trigger still has Colt's stacking weight, but it's incredibly smooth in double action and not too heavy. Single action is perfect. Some worry they'll break or go out of time if you just look at them funny, but I found that as long as you're not rapid-firing 357s all day long, it shouldn't be an issue for most shooters. These truly deserve to be the icons they are. In the number 2 position, I have the Korth Combat from Germany. One thing that really sets these apart is their crazy strength. Almost every piece of metal is hardened forged steel, resulting in an incredibly robust and strong revolver. The designer, Willy Korth, claimed one could shoot 50,000 rounds of 357 Magnum and still group about an inch at 50 yards. It's hard to believe, maybe, but the build quality is certainly there. Everything about it epitomizes luxury, from the bank vault clearances and tolerances to the deep black finish. Skilled craftsmen spend hours and hours putting everything together by hand, one by one. The trigger is naturally extremely smooth in double action and perfect in single action. Most people wonder about this knob on the side, and that's the cylinder release. Besides my number 1 pick, this is the revolver I shoot most because it combines durability, aesthetics, and refinement with excellent accuracy and shootability. It's easily in a class by itself, and I would actually say it's the best built revolver and finest revolver in the entire world and on this entire list. As a quick interlude before getting to number 1, I thought I'd include a couple of other excellent 357s that just don't quite fit the theme of this list. These are the Phillips & Rogers Model 47 Medusa and the Mateba 2006M. The Medusa was built in the late 1990s and early 2000s, and it's based on the Smith & Wesson K-frame, but made substantially better and stronger. The designer intended these to withstand firing .357 Magnums underwater without damage. While being expertly made and nicely finished, their real claim to fame is the unique multi-caliber system built into the cylinder. The revolver could chamber and fire almost any cartridge in the .357 9mm range, from .380 ACP to 9mm Browning to 9mm Luger. I've even fired .32 ACP out of this thing successfully. Not super accurately, but it does work. The double-action trigger is a bit heavy, probably to ensure primer ignition across all those different cartridges, but it's very smooth and even, and I like it a lot. The Mateba 2006M is my favorite shooting Mateba. The semi-auto Sei Unica is certainly better known, but it lacks the simplicity and the reliability of Gisoni's first underbarrel design. Accuracy with the gun is stupendous, and everyone who's shot my 2006M comes away extremely impressed with the shooting characteristics. The trigger is smooth in double action and very nice in single action. The 6 o'clock bore position, later made popular in the Chiappa Rhino, really does work to reduce muzzle flip when shooting hot .357 loads. It's a great gun overall and highly innovative, just maybe not quite as finely produced as some of the others on this list. Being that guy with the Matebas though, I had to include one of them, and I'd easily pick this over the Sei Unica. Finally, what I feel is the greatest .357 double-action revolver of all time, the Manurhin MR73. This one barely edges out the Korth for maybe a strange reason, and that's just that to me it feels like it has a bit more personality and character to it. While the Korth has this sterile, clinical perfection to it, the MR73 was designed as a combat gun, and its excellence is incidental to that purpose. Like the Korth, it's fantastically strong and rugged, and French Special Forces routinely put thousands and thousands of rounds of .357s through these without frame distortion, barrel or forcing cone erosion, or any other issues, all while maintaining match-grade accuracy. Fit and finish aren't forgotten either. The bluing is impeccable, highly polished and shiny, and the trigger is excellent in double action, very short and fast. Single action is also good. I really like the mechanical clicks that happen when you're cocking the gun. It reminds me of a fine Swiss watch. Now, many of you may be aware of the large batch of Surplus MR73s that have been showing up in the past couple years. Most of those have been shot a lot and abused. I had 2 of them for a while, and I would say that if you want the full MR73 experience, you really need to find a commercial model like this sport variant in good condition. I'm sure you'll love it as much as I do. So that was a quick overview of what I feel are the greatest .357 revolvers ever made. Like virtually any other top 5 or top 10 or top whatever list on the internet, these are just my completely subjective opinions, but I do feel like I've handled and shot enough revolvers to have a pretty well-informed perspective when it comes to the criteria that I mentioned at the beginning. So if you're looking to add an heirloom quality premium .357 to your collection, I highly suggest any one of the guns off this list. So thanks for watching, and I look forward to a flood of comments telling me that I'm a pretentious idiot snob who's just showing off since I've never heard of a Smith & Wesson 586.